You come home, and you know before you even open the door. There's that specific silence, the kind that means something went wrong. You turn the key, push it open, and there it is. The throw pillow is in 4 pieces across the floor. One couch cushion has a corner chewed through. The TV remote is somewhere it shouldn't be, and there are scratch marks along the bottom of your front door that weren't there this morning. Your dog is looking at you, tail low, eyes wide, and you're standing there in your work clothes, exhausted, trying to figure out what you did wrong. Here's what I want you to hear first. You didn't do anything wrong. Your dog is not broken. Your apartment is not the problem, and your dog is not trying to punish you for leaving. This is not a bad dog. This is not a small space problem. This is not you failing as an owner. This is a dog who is trying to communicate something, and right now, the only language available to them is your couch cushions. That's what this video is about. Not just how to stop the destruction, but why it's happening. Because those two things are completely different problems with completely different fixes. And if you treat the wrong one, you will spend months doing everything right and getting nowhere. One more thing before we get into it. There's something almost every apartment dog owner does in the 30 seconds before they walk out the door. Something that feels like kindness. Something that feels like the right thing to do. And it is making this significantly worse. We'll get there. But first, you need to understand what's actually happening with your dog when you leave. So let's start with the most important question. And it's not, how do I make it stop? It's, what is actually happening here? Because here's what most people don't realize. There are 2 completely different reasons a dog destroys an apartment. They look almost identical from the outside. The damage is the same. The frustration you feel is the same. But the cause and the fix could not be more different. The first is boredom. A dog who doesn't have enough mental stimulation, enough engagement during the day, will find something to do with that energy. Your couch becomes a project. Your shoes become entertainment. And here's the tell. It happens whether you're home or not. A bored dog doesn't need you to leave. They just need something to do. And if you haven't provided that, they'll figure it out themselves. The second is separation anxiety. And this is not just your dog missing you. Separation anxiety is a genuine panic response. Elevated heart rate, cortisol flooding the system, real physiological distress. A dog in that state is not making decisions. They are reacting. And the destruction tends to show up around exits, the front door, the windows, because that's where you disappeared. The single clearest way to tell the difference is this. Does it happen when you're home too? A bored dog chews on things while you're sitting right there on the couch. An anxious dog is fine when you're present, even if you're in another room, and falls apart only when you're completely gone. That one question narrows it down faster than anything else. And here's the part most owners get wrong. Before you change a single thing about your routine, before you buy a new toy, before you hire a trainer, before you try anything, set up a camera and watch what your dog actually does in the first 30 minutes after you leave. Your phone propped against a bookshelf works fine. You don't need anything fancy. Watch the footage. A dog with separation anxiety will show you distress within the first few minutes. Pacing, whining, scratching at the door. They won't settle. A bored dog will often sniff around, maybe nap, and then decide to redecorate around the 45-minute mark when the novelty of the apartment wears off. The footage tells you which problem you're actually solving. And that matters, because if you're treating boredom with anxiety protocols, you'll get nowhere. And if you're treating anxiety with more exercise, same result. Now, the thing that makes both of these problems worse, and I see this constantly with apartment owners, you come home, the damage is there, and you react. You raise your voice, you point at the cushion. Maybe you don't yell, but the energy in the room shifts, and your dog knows something is wrong. Here's the hard truth: your dog cannot connect that moment to something that happened 4 hours ago. Dogs do not process cause and effect across that kind of time gap. What your dog learns from that interaction is not, "I shouldn't chew the couch." What they learn is that when you come through the door, the energy is tense and unpredictable, which raises their baseline anxiety, which makes the problem worse tomorrow. Punishment after the fact does not teach the dog what to do differently. It teaches the dog that your homecoming is something to brace for. That is the opposite of what you want. So, before we get into the actual fixes, that's the foundation. 2 different problems. 1 diagnostic step that takes 30 seconds to set up, and 1 thing to stop doing immediately. So far, here's where we are. Your dog is destroying things for one of 2 reasons: boredom or separation anxiety, and they need completely different fixes. The camera test tells you which one you're actually dealing with, and punishing after the fact makes both problems worse, not better. If this is already clicking for you, hit subscribe. Every video on this channel is built specifically for apartment dog owners. No backyards, no car, real life, real solutions. And drop a comment right now. Does your dog only destroy things when you're gone, or does it happen when you're home too? That answer matters more than you think, and I want to know what you're dealing with. Now, let's get into the actual fixes. Let's start with boredom, because the fix is more straightforward, and because a lot of apartment owners are surprised to find out that more walks are not the answer. Physical exercise is good, your dog needs it, but a tired dog and a mentally satisfied dog are 2 different things. Physical exercise burns the body out. Mental stimulation burns the brain out, and for a dog who's destroying things out of boredom, it's the brain that needs the workout. Here's a simple shift that changes things fast. Instead of feeding your dog breakfast out of a bowl, which takes about 90 seconds and gives them nothing to think about, feed it through a puzzle feeder. Same kibble, same amount, same time. Except now your dog spends 10 to 15 minutes working for every piece. That focused nose-led problem-solving uses more mental energy than a 20-minute walk. The AKC found that dogs given consistent puzzle enrichment showed a 58% reduction in destructive chewing within the first month. If a puzzle feeder isn't in the budget, a muffin tin with kibble and a tennis ball over each cup works just as well. Free. Takes 30 seconds to set up. Before you leave, give your dog something to do with their mouth. A stuffed Kong frozen the night before. A lick mat with a smear of peanut butter. The repetitive licking and chewing motion releases calming neurotransmitters. It's not just distraction, it's physically calming, and it buys you 30 minutes of calm, focused activity right at the moment your dog is most likely to start looking for trouble. One more thing for the boredom-driven dog confinement training. Not as punishment, as structure. Some dogs do better when they're not given the run of the entire apartment while you're gone. A smaller space actually feels safer, and it removes the overwhelming option of everything in your apartment being available to destroy. A puppy pen in the corner of your living room, set up with a bed, a water bowl, and something to chew on, is not cruel. It's a dog who has a space and a job. That's a calmer dog. But here's what actually works for separation anxiety, and it's almost the opposite of what your instincts tell you. The fix for separation anxiety is not more love before you leave, it's less. Calm departures, boring exits. You put your shoes on, you grab your bag, you leave. No hug at the door, no "be good", no 30-second goodbye in the hallway. You leave the way you'd leave to grab something from your car like it means nothing, because you want your dog to start believing that it means nothing. Separation anxiety is not stubbornness. It is not disobedience. It is not your dog punishing you for leaving. It is a panic response that has been accidentally reinforced every time the departure became an event. The other piece, and this one is subtle, is what's called pre-departure cues. Your dog has learned your leaving routine in precise detail. The order you put your shoes on, which jacket means a long absence, The sound of your keys versus your gym bag zipper. Dogs with separation anxiety become hyper-aware of these signals, and they start panicking before you've even stood up. The way to break that is to scramble the signal. Put your shoes on and watch TV. Pick up your keys and sit back down. Grab your bag and make a cup of coffee. Do this several times a day without leaving. The cue stops predicting the departure. The anxiety attached to it starts to dissolve. It takes a few weeks of consistency. In an apartment with a 9 to 5, that means doing the scramble routine in the morning, before work in the evening on weekends. Small repetitions. No drama, no big reveal. Just gradually teaching your dog that the shoes don't mean anything yet. And returns work the same way. When you come home, don't make it a celebration. Walk in, put your stuff down, go about your business. Wait until your dog is calm. 4 paws on the floor, no jumping, and then quietly say hello. You're not ignoring your dog. You're teaching them that comings and goings are unremarkable, safe, routine. Here's the scenario I hear about more than any other. Someone worked from home for 2 years. Their dog was fine, great even, happy, calm, no issues. Then they went back to the office, and within 2 weeks, the apartment looked like a different animal lived there. Couch arm chewed through, baseboards scratched, neighbors knocking. And the owner's first thought is, what did I do wrong? Nothing. They didn't do anything wrong. What happened is that their dog spent 2 years learning that being alone is not a thing that happens, and now it has to learn that from scratch as an adult in a 600 square foot apartment 5 days a week. That is a real ask. It takes time and a specific approach. But it is fixable. Completely fixable. It just doesn't fix itself. This is the piece that changes everything. That dog doesn't need punishment. It doesn't need a bigger space. It doesn't need you to feel guilty about going to work. What it needs is to be taught, slowly and systematically, that alone is safe. That you leave and you come back. That the apartment is not a threat. And that brings me to the thing I mentioned at the very start of this video. The one thing almost every apartment dog owner does before they walk out the door that is making this significantly worse. The long goodbye. You know what it looks like because you've done it. You crouch down. You hug the dog. You say something like, "I'll be back soon. Be good. I love you." Maybe you linger at the door. Maybe you come back in once because you forgot something and do the whole thing again. And you do all of this because you love your dog and you feel terrible about leaving, especially in a small apartment, especially for a full workday. Here's what your dog is actually experiencing during that ritual. By the time your keys came out, their heart rate was already rising. By the time you crouched down, they were reading your body language and confirming what they already suspected. Something significant is about to happen. Your emotional energy during the goodbye is not reassuring to them. It is confirming that departure is an event, a big one, something to brace for. The ASPCA is direct about this. Lengthy emotional departure rituals amplify separation anxiety. The goodbye that feels like comfort is working like a warning. And this is where the guilt of being an apartment dog owner makes everything harder. You live in a small space. You're gone for 9 hours. You love your dog genuinely and completely. So you try to make it up to them before you leave. The long hug, the drawn-out farewell the TV left on for company. Every single one of those gestures comes from a real place. And every single one of them is accidentally training your dog to be more afraid. Caring and helping are not always the same thing. That's not a criticism. It's just the hardest part of this. The fix is not to love your dog less. It's to express that love differently. A frozen Kong placed quietly on the floor as you walk out the door does more for your dog's emotional state than any goodbye ever could. A calm, boring departure, followed by a calm, boring return, teaches your dog the most important thing they can learn, that you leave and you always come back. And neither of those things is a crisis. That's the whole lesson. Leave like it's nothing, return like it's nothing, and in between, give your dog something to do. Your neighbors will notice, your lease will thank you, and your dog slowly, steadily, will start to believe that the apartment is a safe place even when you're not in it. 3 things to take with you. First destruction is always communication. Your dog is not being bad. Your dog is telling you something about their anxiety, their boredom, their confusion, using the only tools available. The question is never just how to stop it. The question is what they're saying. Second, before you change anything, watch the footage. Set up your phone, leave, and watch what happens in the first 30 minutes. A bored dog and an anxious dog look completely different on camera. That footage tells you which problem you're actually solving, and that determines everything that comes after. Third, the long goodbye feels like love. To your dog, it feels like a warning. Changing that one